What's going on, YouTubers, gamers and fellow hobbyists, and welcome to P&Q, the question and answer series. You notice I had to think then, what video am I making? It's the question and answer series where you get to ask me questions or put comments to me, then I respond to you the following week. Now you can do this one of 4 ways. I think it's 4 ways now, because I dropped one, didn't I? Most common way is put your comment or question down below under the video. That's really cool. Second way, you can email me directly at miniwarzone@gmail.com. There'll be a link in the video description below this video if you're watching it on the minimized screen. Free if you make a video yourself asking a question and I see it, then usually I answer them here as well. And 4, if you see me in person and ask me a question about something or raise a topic that I think is pretty interesting we could talk about, then I'll answer that here as well. Okay, so I've got one personal question. Actually, I was asked it only yesterday, and the rest of them are all comments from last week's show. So thank you to everyone who participates. I really do appreciate it. It's nice to get the interaction going with you guys, and yeah, sometimes I glean a bit of insight into you as well as you do with me. So I'm going to start with the personal question because that's the only one of its kind. I got no emails, not that I saw anyway, unless they've gone into my spam bin. Then I do apologise. They don't usually, but sometimes they've been known to. Let me just grab a sip of tea a moment. So I get a bit of a dry throat. So yesterday I was asked, and it was about YouTube, and it's actually a family member. They said, how do you go about editing your videos in terms of clips? Do you upload them all and then begin the editing process, or do you deal with them one clip at a time? So what they're asking is what my editing process is when I edit my videos. Now, the person in question tends to upload all their clips at once. So if they've been, say they've been out somewhere or they've done something that they've been filming and there's, I don't know, 10, 12 clips, they'll upload or they'll download all the clips to the computer, which is what I do, but then they'll upload all the clips to their editing software, which I don't do. Now what I do is what I say is I download all my clips from my camera first of all, get them all, no matter how many they are. I just get them off the camera onto my computer. But then when I come to edit the video before rendering, I upload the clips one at a time and I make sure I've got that right first. If it's a particularly long video, I'll render the first half of it on its own without anything else, just in case something goes wrong, which has been known to happen in the past. And or you've got something to do and you're not going to have time to finish it, so at least you get like the intro and half of it done and a few clips rendered. You can get away with that a couple of times, but yeah. So that's how I do it. I just upload one clip at a time, like do the transitions, cut the bits out I need to, do anything else I need to, overlay whatever. Then I'll put the next clip on and so on and so forth. And that works particularly well, particularly if it's a voiceover. I tend to do that as well. So thank you for your question. Okay, on to the questions from last week. Starting with Idic Beer 40k. Who says, excellent episode, Pete. What is the best paintbrush you have ever owned? Now that's a curious question. I had to think about this. I've never owned any really fancy brushes other than airbrushes. I presume you're talking about hand brushes because I've got a few airbrushes. And the one I use most out of those is the Badger Patriot 105 because it's my workhorse one. I do use the Chrome sometimes, but the Patriot 105. But hand painting brushes, now that's more tricky. I don't know about the best brush. I can tell you the worst brushes I've ever had. They're the current GW range of brushes. I hate them. They just splay out pretty much instantly, and I don't think they're worth the money for what you get. I think the cheaper ones last far longer. But you're asking what's my favourite one. In the old range of GW brushes, which I preferred, by the way, I much prefer them. I had a detail brush. I think it was the yellow tipped on the handle, because they had colour coding, didn't they? And I had one of those that lasted for ages, and it became like my lucky detail brush, and it was really good. It kept its shape and its point for a very, very long time. That was my favourite brush from years gone by. These days, I would say, I don't have one in particular, but generalistically speaking, it is it's army painter brushes. They're my favourites to use. I particularly like the Kalinsky Masterclass brush from the Army Painter range, and I just like their detail, regiment and character brushes, and their dry brushes too. I have owned Winsor and Newton, not the Series 7 really expensive ones or anything like that. I have owned some synthetic Winsor and Newtons, and I've had a few good Dana and Rowney ones as well. They've been quite good. But no one stands out in particular. Hope that answers your question, Nick. I'd be interested in hearing what yours is. Right. Frost and Fists is next. I think I need a sip of tea after that. Okay. Frost and Fists says, awesome episode as always, my brother. Thinking on how much you like monsters has inspired 2 questions. Excellent. 1. What is your favourite dinosaur? It's a toss-up between Tyrannosaurus Rex and Triceratops. And I think for me, Triceratops just nails it. Because he's hard. He's hard. No, he's a... Well, I don't know because I wasn't there, but by all accounts he was pretty ferocious, and he was a veggie, so, you know. I mean, he didn't go out looking for trouble, but if trouble came to him, then, you know, he'd sort it out. So I'm going to say Triceratops, the one with the 3 horns, the one on the front and the 2 up there with the frilly bit behind his head. But I suppose growing up as a kid, it was Tyrannosaurus Rex. Now, I know they've kind of discovered different species of dinosaur, like bigger ones. But for me, growing up as a kid, Tyrannosaurus Rex was the biggest and baddest, and he was the one in all the films, wasn't he? Like, you know. So yeah. Number 2. What are your thoughts on the Loch Ness Monster? I've always enjoyed reading about it and fancy the idea of it, though I'm not sure that such a creature could have evaded modern science for so long. As always, take care, my brother, and keep up the awesome Wolf Brother Mythos. Thank you, Wolf Brother Mythos. Loch Ness Monster. Well, that's a tough one too, because Loch Ness Monster... Well, Loch Ness... They have trouble scanning anything in that water, don't they, with all the best equipment. If you look at it, underwater, we haven't discovered but a fraction of what's underneath our ocean waves. I don't know why I said ocean waves, but beneath our ocean. And places like Loch Ness, they seem to be no different. They've been able to do some sort of stuff with like sonar and all that kind of stuff. And you'd think in today's modern technological era, we would be able to locate something like that. I'm not sure if there is a monster, if it's the same one, if it's a family of them. I don't know. But if you look at any documentaries regarding Loch Ness, you'll see how difficult it is to actually find and locate and deal with anything beneath Loch Ness. It evades certain technologies for some reason. The mystery there. Maybe we're not meant to find out. Who knows? But great question. I'd like to think he was real. Because I like the idea of Loch Ness as well. Of course, there's been a lot of fakes and forgeries of, this is the Loch Ness Monster, and it's been some model using perspective and fancy camera work and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, there are accounts of people that claim to have seen Loch Ness, and I'm not just talking about like local inn owners that are nearby for tourists or whatever. I mean, people that have actually genuinely gone up to Scotland and seen it for themselves, supposedly. I don't know. Can't speak from personal experience there, but yeah, so it's worth thinking about. I'm going to need a few sips of tea for this next question. Comes from Basic Miniature Painting. Yeah, I'm going to have to finish this because it's a bit of a question that gets me thinking. There we are, I finished it. So I leave the tea bag in it, you see. Right. Basic Miniature Painting says, "Hi Pete, great Q&A. Question, if or when A Night of Phalor, which I'm still reading, it's awesome. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the kind words. Gets produced into a film, who would you have play the lead characters?" Now, unless you don't know, Night of Phalor is a book my wife has written. I'll put a link to the video interview up there. It's the first in a series of books. She's actually finished the second book, as a lot of you know. I've nearly finished editing the second draft of the book, and my wife's about halfway through the third draft of the book. Then it'll be edited for embellishment on a fourth draft. Proofread again, then possibly further embellishments. I would guess 5 or 6 drafts, and then proofreaders. We're hoping to get it out, this year though, and I'm confident we will. But anyway, talking about Night of Phalor, which is the first book in the series, who would play the lead character? And my wife's actually commented on this. She said, "My choice would be Hugh Jackman, especially when he's in Wolverine mode, or someone equally, in brackets, sexy. I mean, wolfish." Now, my wife's got a thing for Hugh Jackman. I have no idea why. And she's talking about the choice for the character of Peter, the alpha of the werewolves. And to be honest, I would say Hugh Jackman would make a great choice for him as well. Alandria, I would say, I would put Emilia Clarke in. If we could like get the film done or started today, get everybody's contracts written up, and everyone's available. Emilia Clarke for Alandria. Uri was always written with Helen Mirren in mind, and I know in my wife's mind Uri looks and is Helen Mirren, and Helen Mirren is portraying her. Tallis Quinn, I think Benedict Cumberbatch would make a great Tallis Quinn. He's got that kind of. After watching Doctor Strange, I think he'd fit the bill nicely. Janda, I think. Janda would be a good mage. I think Tom Hiddleston would be a good Janda. As for Eli and Durin, I don't know. Fishbone, I've always thought would be done well by Chris Christopherson. That's who I envisage when I'm reading about Fishbone. Rufus is both my wife and I have said Chris Evans would make a great Rufus, because he's always so upbeat and optimistic, and think of Chris Evans not when he's playing Captain America, but when he played Flamer in the Fantastic Four, that kind of attitude. So he's a bit like that to start with. He does evolve, but yeah. I'd have to, Honestly, I can't think of Eli and Jared who would play them though. But what a question, sir! Thank you. Right, moving on to Battles in a Blue Shed. Says great P&Q, thank you. Question: as you prefer narrative play in 40k, do you like to watch narrative campaigns on YouTube? If so, do you have any favourites? On YouTube, I tend, well, years ago I started watching my favourite narrative campaigns. The two that stand out for me are by Mini Wargaming. They were the Fate of Fayoum and Snagabog's Greed. And of course, on YouTube, you only get to see like one half of the thing, which is what prompted me. Fate of Fayoum was the narrative campaign from Mini Wargaming that got me to sign up to their vault. So obviously, I'm able to watch, those campaigns in the vault. But YouTube, I haven't seen any decent narrative ones to date that compare. Because I think it's important. I mean, I'm no longer a vault member of Mini Wargaming, but back in the old days, they used to do a story time in between, and I think that really made it for me, and it got me excited for watching the next episode. And I've not seen anybody do that on YouTube. I mean, I think if someone was to do that, yeah, I'd watch it, definitely, absolutely. I mean, I tend not to watch many battle reports. I do watch the odd one here and there, but they're kind of not my favourite type of video to watch. Yeah. So that is my answer. It was Fate of Fayoum and Snagabog's Greed from the early days, because they really started doing the whole narrative campaign thing on video, and then people got on board with that idea and ran with it. But I still think they did it best. Whether they still do or not, I don't know. I'm sure their productions and the values have gone up, rocketed. It should do with all the money they're making, right? Anyway, thank you for your question. Right, Big Mick Danskull is next, and he says, time for some serious talk now. Scones. Here we go. Do you put the cream on before or after the jam? Or are you partial to another topping altogether? I always put the jam on first and the cream on last. Yes. Not that it really makes a huge difference in the taste of it, because, when you're chewing it all up, what's the difference? But for me, I think it looks better with the jam on the bottom and the cream on the top. And it's easier to spread jam on a buttered scone than it is to spread jam on clotted cream. Cream just blobs on anything. So for me, the jam goes on first. To me, that's just logical, but that's just me. Okay. Thank you for your question. Right. Black Country Wargaming. We've got 2 more left, so... Black Country Wargaming says, what's your thoughts on the discontinuation of armies, rules or models by a company that is still in business? And would it upset you if your favourite army or model wasn't available to be used or bought anymore? What's my thoughts on it? It's not affected me ever at the moment. Would it? I don't know. I'm just getting into Tau. So if Games Workshop were to suddenly discontinue Tau, I don't know, because I've got the codex, I've got the rules. I could pick up, anything that I wanted probably from eBay. Might make prices of those models go up or not. I don't know. It could go either way. I don't know if I'd be upset or not. I really don't. I would say it would make the army I had even more collectible in my collection, and I'd probably put them in a display rather than in a like a tray or a box ready for gaming. So I'd probably display them and probably dig them out now and again and just, I don't know, play games with old rules with them, something like that. I don't think it would upset me. No. So I'm going to say no, I don't think it would. And the last question comes from JamJar34. He says, great episode, me lord. Your model Magnus the Red looks awesome. Over the last 4 months, what have been your favourite colours to use? Name one per month. And for your plans, what have you got for May with your hobby? Favourite colours to use? One a month. Well, I've got the same sort of favourite colours no matter what month it is. I mean, it's true, it could be that I'm using a certain colour more one month than another. But I have the same favourites, really. That is blue, red, green and brown. They're my favourite colours, I would suppose, on models. I like blacks, but more for terrain. But on little models, I like blue, red, green and brown. I like other colours as well, but those four would be my favourites. I couldn't pin them down to a month, though. As for what have I got planned for May, well, what I would like to have planned, what I would like to do for May, is to get another airbrushing for beginners video out, because they are my most popular video by far. They're in a different league to everything else. I mean, as a rule, my videos don't tend to get an awful lot of views. And I know that's because I do such a varied selection of videos. And although I have quite a few subscribers now, in that collection of subscribers, there's only little pockets of people that like certain things. So if I was to specialise in one thing, maybe say I was to specialise in Games Workshop and 1 or 2 armies, I'm sure I'd have heaps more views and stuff like that. Or I was to specialise in, say, terrain only or tutorials only. Do you know what I mean? But airbrushing seems to appeal to a wider audience, and it seems to come up in the YouTube algorithms more than others. I mean, airbrushing for beginners is one playlist out of, I don't know how many I've got now, 70 odd, who knows. But those videos have probably had more views, well, one video probably has had more views than all the other playlists put together. So, they get watched more. But it is something I would like to do. I want to do an airbrushing for beginners video. I want to do one on airbrush maintenance, because I think that's important. And you see 1 or 2 videos around kind of like that, but it's not exactly what I'm after. I want to get the information out there and, recorded, and it's there then forever. Well, for as long as YouTube survives, or the world doesn't blow up or whatever, it's there as a resource to be used, and I just want to get it done. I mean, I'm not talking just general cleaning of your airbrush. I mean, like a proper maintenance of your airbrush to keep it running smoothly, keep it working well. Something I think is important. But anyway, I will get around to that. But that's my plans for May. well, it's my hopeful plans for May. It's what I would like to get done for May, and I'll do my best to get it done. So, but yeah. Anyway, that's it. That's my questions. That's all I've got to answer. It's been brilliant. I love getting these questions. Please keep them coming in, because without them, what is this series really? It's nothing. It would dissolve into nothingness. I do want to keep going to, at least till episode 365 if I can, and then maybe I'll call it a day there. I don't know, but 200 is the next big milestone for P&Q, and that's a lot of episodes to do. And I've never missed a week ever in this series. That's not to say I won't in the future, but I've never missed one so far, and I do my utmost not to miss one. With the beauty and the magic of scheduling and that kind of thing. Does mean sometimes I have to record it earlier or later due to real life, but like I say, that's real life, isn't it? It gets in the way sometimes. So, but yeah, there you go. Anyway, I think I've rambled on and taken up enough of your time for long enough. So that leaves me to say, remember, folks, all brushes, whether they're hand brushes or air brushes, lead to war. And I'll see you on the next video. I better.